Dear Dr. de Swardt, dear families and friends, dear members of the faculty and members of the school, I present to you today the MPP class of 2015. That was pretty good. And after last night's cabaret, I think this has to be a really good graduation ceremony because we have to match it, right? So, not only do we have the class of 2015 here, we also have the first graduates of our very own PhD program in governance. There they go. And I think as I look at the 126 MPP students and the 7 PhD graduates from 31 countries, I think we all share a pride and sense of accomplishment at this very special occasion. During your time at the Hertie School, you will have shared many memorable times and memories, experiences, both inside and outside the Hertie School, and hopefully you will look back on your time here with us in Berlin with great fondness and perhaps even a little nostalgia. There are 8 MPP cohorts that came before you, and you are our largest graduating class so far. You will now become alumni and join a network that approaches nearly 1,000. And if we add our executive master graduates to that as well. You are a very, very special group. 24 of you participated in dual degree programs. 9 of you were part of the Atlantis program, which brings together students from the US and Europe, and 25 of you went abroad on an exchange during your 3rd semester. The students in your cohort completed internships in 20 countries, going as far afield as South Africa, Malaysia, and Cameroon. Some of you did professional years in places really far away, such as Colombia, Tanzania, and Canada. 9 countries altogether served this year as a professional year destination. Indeed, you are an exceptional group. You speak 3 to 4 languages on average. You hold 2 degrees. You have done 3 internships and studied, volunteered, and worked in some 3 countries. Like our alumni, you will seek and then pursue careers in a wide range of fields. About a third of you will be joining the corporate world. Another third will work for governments and international agencies, and another third in civil society institutions like NGOs, foundations, and think tanks. So let me also tell you how proud we are today to see our first and very own PhD students complete their degrees. This is indeed a very, very proud moment in the school's just 10, 11-year history. As you know, we have a PhD program in operation for just 3 years, and here we are producing our first own graduates 3 years on. So perhaps you will come back to the Hertie School as professors in 5 years' time. You never know. But I'm sure you would find it a very, very good place to be. A special thanks goes to the members of the Student Affairs team who worked so hard to help get you settled in Berlin, and to the Graduate Programs team who attended to your academic needs over the last 2 years. As you know, we have many plans, as we always do at the Hertie School. Next fall, we will have, of course, the next cohort of MPP students joining us, when you will be alumni, and you can help them find internships if you like. And they will be joined by the first cohort of the new MIA, the Master of International Affairs. So the school will, in its 12th year of history, add a first major new master program in the field. We will, if all goes well, add at least 5 professors next year, and we hope to fill the international law position as well. So you are leaving a place that is very much on the go, and you are a dynamic group, we are a dynamic place, and I think we have been and we will be a very good match in the future. With these introductory remarks, allow me to introduce today's commencement speaker, Dr. Cobus de Swardt. His experience spans the field of globalization, development policy, international relations, and business management. He has taught at several universities, worked for multinational in the field of multinational corporations, trade unions, and research institutes. During the 1980s and early 1990s, he was active in the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa and served as the chair of the ANC Congress in Cape Town. He is a former chair of the World Economic Forum Global Agenda Council on Transparency and Anti-Corruption and serves on the board of the WF Partnering Against Corruption Initiatives and the International Civil Society Center. He is among the 500 most powerful individuals on the foreign policy map as of it was in the year 2013, and last year he was listed among the most influential people in the field of security policy by Security Magazine. Mr. de Swardt was a PhD in sociology from the University in Melbourne, Australia, and a Master of Philosophy in Political and African Studies from the University of Cape Town. Today, he will talk to us about journeys of social justice. Mrs. de Swardt, we are indeed most honored that you accepted our invitation, and we very much look forward to your commencement speech. The floor is yours. Welcome again.
I'm going to take that off because I'll bump that over.
Right.
Good afternoon. Dean Anaya, distinguished faculty, proud parents, family, friends, and most importantly, class of 2015. Thank you very much for the honor to share some ideas and experiences on my social journey, my journeys of social justice with you on this special day. This honor indeed challenged me as well as my values. During my own academic career, where I taught at first sociology at the then so-called Black University of the Western Cape, I refused to attend graduation ceremonies. It's indeed my first. Even the graduation ceremonies of my own students, many of them who inspired me immensely. They were black, they were poor, they against the odds made it in a very racist society. So why did I refuse? In my view, graduation ceremonies during apartheid South Africa marked an important initiation and co-opting of a few black students into an exclusive elite. An elite whose position of privilege was totally dependent on their disappropriate access and control over resources which actually belonged to all. The denial of the most basic human rights, dignity, and privilege of the few, of the majority, indeed was key to the wealth and the privilege of those that made it. And if over time increasing numbers of black students started to break down the integration of racism and inequality, it remained instrumental to the protection of white privileges for at least the last 3 decades of apartheid. We tend to view education as a means to reduce inequality and towards advancing social justice. But that was not the case in South Africa. On the contrary, advanced education, funded by public money, by and large served the rich, as well systematically increased inequality and undermined social cohesion. And unfortunately, whilst this phenomenon was extreme in apartheid South Africa, it continues to manifest itself in many other parts of the world. The extremes of increased inequality in the world today is a social time bomb. We live in a world where 1 billion people live in extreme poverty on less than $1.25 a day. In this unequal world, the 85 richest people have the same wealth as the poorest 3.5 billion. On current trends, the richest 1% will own more than 50% of the world's wealth next year. Inequality has devastating consequences, from slowing poverty reduction to increasing crime, violence, and social instability. Extreme inequality is not inevitable. It is the result of social policies. The recent financial crisis bailout packages that lacked basic transparency and by and large socialized capital risk to citizens, whilst gains remained privatized, is but one example of this. I consider myself to be extremely fortunate for having been confronted with the extremes of inequality, poverty, and racism on a daily basis as a teenager. At some point, I had no choice but to say no, as this oppression started to undermine my own humanity. Generally speaking, privilege tends to insulate one from the indignity billions of people suffer daily: hunger, violence, conflict, and many other human rights abuses. In a world that already currently have the expertise and resources to avoid most of these sufferings. Social policy is failing us dramatically. It is indeed easy to live here in Europe, for example, and see past the war and death and terror in Syria, or closer to home, to Kreuzberg, where some immigrants face threats, or homelessness. Most of us are usually not confronted on a daily basis with the reality that 1 out of every 5 children under the age of 15 live in poverty in Berlin. But of course, education does not naturally feel extreme inequality or undermine the social good. It is also a choice made by the beneficiaries of advanced education, by my generation, by our generations, and by the next generation of new elites, by you. And that is why I came today. I passionately believe that you have a choice. You either utilize your future positions of privilege and power to accumulate only for yourself, or to also seek to work for the broader social good and make the world a better and a fairer place, no matter what kind of career you end up choosing. In this regard, the challenge for you, new graduates of this prestigious, if young, European institution, in your journeys of social justice, in my view, will be much tougher than mine. You will need to go beyond your immediate comfort and privilege without being confronted with extreme injustice on a daily basis in your future lives and jobs. That's tough. In my job these days, where I have the immense privilege to be the Managing Director of Transparency International, a global coalition of civil society organizations operating in over 100 countries, dedicated to fight corruption, I often get disheartened about the injustices we as human beings do to each other. For example, expectant mothers made to pay $5 every time they screamed while giving birth in a hospital in Zimbabwe. Historically speaking, corruption has greased the wheels of exploitation and injustice since time immemorial. The terrible human tragedies of recent history, genocides and institutionalized racism, for example, have likewise been welded to abusive political systems that twist the public trust for private gain. The fight against corruption is central to the struggle for human rights and social justice. It is the fact that the poor and the marginalized are most affected by corruption that should give us pause. In concrete terms, it means that those with least influence often suffer most, both from the denial of social services due to grant corruption and in their daily lives as they are faced with demands for bribes in the most vulnerable situations during contact with law enforcement, healthcare providers, or the education system. In my view, we have a social responsibility to build communities and institutions at local and global levels that are transparent, accountable, and participatory. We see the importance of good, transparent, and accountable governance every day. It is an essential prerequisite for ending poverty and inequality efficiently. Without governance for the social good, we see corruption feeding insurgency in war-torn lands, policy decisions being captured by the interests of the powerful instead of serving the common good, and resource-rich countries, the majority, which continue to lose what should be public wealth in offshore accounts. Today, corruption is one of the key social challenges of our time, irrespective which indicators you use. From the BBC worldwide poll that rates corruption as the most talked issue around the world, to a vast online activist community of over 30 million people choosing as third most important issue to tackle human rights. Second, climate change. Number one, corruption. To the UN's big data scraping, where grassroots feedback consistently featured corruption as one of the top priorities to be addressed in the post-2015 development goals. And in September this year, this demand from people around the world are now very likely to be included as goal number 16 in the UN Sustainable Development Goals, marking a chance for a new dawn of governance for the benefit of all instead of serving the vested interests of the few. Yet along the way, our daily lives will continue and our daily battles will continue. Just this week, we started to win one battle. In 2011, we, Transparency International, called on FIFA to urgently reform and restore public trust. We even provided a roadmap, including the importance of dealing with the past. Last week, we again stepped up our call for drastic reforms and the resignation of Mr. Blatter. His resignation this week marked a potential new era for football. It is now time to clean up FIFA. Football is a sport that gives people hope. It provides joy and dreams to billions across the world, from the poor favelas in Rio to Berlin hosting the Champions League final tomorrow. As fans, we have a love affair with football. When our teams win, we're ecstatic. When they lose, we are devastated. Ask my son. But when results of games or rights for hosting events, elections, etc., are driven not by fair competition, but by corruption, we feel betrayed. It is a further shame and a slap in the face of football fans that the cleanup of organized football has now been driven by criminal investigators. Investigations that show that at least 2 generations of football officials, the guardians of integrity of the beautiful game, reportedly abused their positions of trust to acquire millions of dollars in bribes and kickbacks. It is amazing that for so long we knew it, we said it had to stop, and it took this long. It must stop now. The pervasiveness of corruption, of course, goes way beyond sport, with financial systems and politics arguably being currently 2 of the most destructive to social progress. And this is a worldwide problem. Corruption is not a problem in the South. That is one of the biggest myths of our time. It is worldwide. For example, our research shows that across Europe, many of the institutions that define a democracy are much weaker than assumed. For example, 19 out of 25 countries surveyed do not have any lobbying regulations, highlighting the deficit of transparency of money in politics and the way decisions are made. For European citizens across Europe, corruption for the majority of them is a major problem in their country. The intransparent relationship between business and government enables corruption, hinders the advancement of social justice, and undermines economic stability also in Europe. As a young activist in South Africa, we, the ordinary people, demanded the right to speak truth to power. The world of accountability has indeed turned fantastically. Today, across the world, we, the people, demand that those in power speak truth to us, the ordinary people. I hope that you will add your voice and energies to the task of demanding and building transparency and accountability across all sectors of society. I will end with a personal experience that challenged and changed me. The first time I was imprisoned in apartheid South Africa, I was 18 years old. I was detained under the extensive South African detention laws, which included up to 180 days of detention without trial and no access to a lawyer. At that time, there were often up to a dozen white common criminals sharing one cell. As a naive 18-year-old, this was quite a frightening experience. After I was released the first time, I was counseled that I should be aware of the dangers political activists faced in prison, including violence and rape. I was scared and frightened, and above all, I had no respect for these inmates, as most of them were rough criminals and particularly racist. During my next detention spells, I was ready to fight. However, over time, I realized that against so many, I stood no chance. I then changed my strategy. I worked out, for me, that people could not engage in violence against others who they respected and loved. I still believe that to this day. So I then acted as if I respected and cared for them. And yet over time I realized you can act this for some time, but it was impossible to do so over a long and indefinite period. It has to be genuine. And this then presented me with one of my biggest challenges. I had to overcome many of my own prejudices. Many prejudices that I was indeed proud to have, because I thought it made me a better human being. I had to see beyond the racist, beyond the violent criminal, and everything that divided us, and which indeed formed my values and my identity. I had to seek to respect and to love the common humanity shared with people I thought I had nothing in common with and that I previously despised. And in doing so in prison in the years that followed is without any doubt, for me, the biggest achievement of my life. Over time, this journey to my own discovery of what we call Ubuntu in South Africa, a person is a person through other people, continues to give me strength and inspiration, especially in tough times. I have learned that personal experiences, including uncomfortable and challenging ones, often carry within themselves powerful lessons and even liberation. As you live your stories, seek to learn from them and allow them to enrich you. I close. You, class of 2015, can be very proud of yourselves today for reaching this important milestone in your journey so far. Well done, congratulations. You're arguably the first generation that has the expertise and the resources to end poverty and ensure basic human rights for all on the planet in your lifetime. You are also arguably the last generation that can prevent catastrophic climate change. Now is your time. Thank you very much.
Dear students, dear families and friends, dear colleagues, and dear Cobus de Swardt. As you all know, the Hertie School of Governance is a young institution. We started out 10 years ago with the MPP. But 4 years ago, the Hertie School applied for the right to grant PhD degrees in the County of Berlin. Before that, we were part of a PhD program, the Graduate School of Transnational Studies, BTS, but we could not grant PhDs ourselves. And the reason why we applied for a PhD program was quite simple. We wanted to develop a high-quality academic institution in Berlin, a place which is recognized for good social science research. A PhD program is a central component for investing in research and participating in academic debates. When you train PhDs, you send out a signal and a message to the wider world. We want to engage in the future of the social sciences. The Science Council, which is the main body overseeing higher education institutions in Germany, evaluated our request and decided positively. So in September 2012, we welcomed the first cohort of PhD students to the Hertie School. And it is today, 3 years later, that it is the first graduation ceremony where we can congratulate our students for completing their PhDs. These students at the time took a risk. Just like the MPP students 10 years earlier, they took a risk because this was a new program. We had no reputation for running a successful PhD program. They were our guinea pigs. But today I want to tell you, your risk-taking has paid off, and you made the right choice. And that is not only at a personal level. As you know now, a PhD program involves years of complete personal freedom. You are the master of your own time. You do a bit of training and skills courses, but on the whole, you decide what you want to do it, when you will do it, and what you will focus on, and most important, what is important for you. You spend your entire time working out what is really important for you. And you do that every day for 3 years, and this is the luxury. But also on a more general level, a PhD is a good investment, and we can see that in our own program. Since 2012, we have had 7 graduates at the Hertie School. And of these 7, 2 have taken up an academic career. One is at the Swedish National Defense College, and one is at the European University Institute in Florence, which is one of the leading research universities in Europe. The other 5 are in non-academic positions, and they are at the following institutions. They are at the Bertelsmann Foundation, the Charité, the Stifterverband, the German Institute for International and Security Affairs, and at the British Embassy. And 2 of those are in leadership positions already. So our PhD alumni have an employment rate of already 100%, and all of them are in highly qualified positions. So we were right at the time. But even beyond that, beyond our immediate experience of our students, there's more evidence that a PhD is a good thing. Because in all spheres of life, you're likely to have a better career and have a better position. For instance, in politics. 20% of the members of the German Bundestag, the German Parliament, have a PhD. Half of the cabinet of the German government have a PhD. And that goes from Angela Merkel with her PhD in physics, to Walter Steinmeier, Wolfgang Schäuble with PhD in law, to Ursula von der Leyen, the defense minister, who has a PhD in medical studies. In the private sector, it's the same. 43% of chairmen of German DAX companies have a PhD. In public administration, half of the position in leadership have a PhD. In civil society, we just heard this commencement speech by Cobus de Swardt. Cobus de Swardt started out as an academic. He has a PhD in sociology. And finally, but not most importantly, your earning potential is high. There is still a markup for having a PhD, which is substantial, and it goes across all disciplines. So the future is bright for you. After 3 years of luxury, you're very likely to have a very good career. And this is what we want to celebrate today. We will now come to the conferment of the degrees, and Helmut, please come to the stage. Our first student is Johannes Stemmler, and he wrote his PhD in German. It's called Wie Städte sich neu finden, Chancen und Grenzen von Governance mit Zivilgesellschaft in strukturschwachen Städten. And I repeat that in English. How cities reinvent themselves, opportunities and limits of governance with civil society in deprived cities. Our next student is Anna von Santen. Her PhD is entitled Varieties of Capitalism, Varieties of Degrees, Undergraduate Education in Germany and the United States Compared.
So, dear class of 2015, before we begin with the conferment of the degrees, and we have and the student speakers, I would like to take the opportunity and thank the Hertie Student Association and the student representatives for doing such good work and for cooperating with faculty and with the Dean's Office, with the Managing Director in making sure that we have smooth working relationships and making the school a better place. And I think sometimes it's a thankless job to be a member of the Hertie Student Association or a representative, because you do it for the greater good. But I think we should thank them for it and tell them that we really respect that work. And I promise the Hertie Student Association that in future I won't mess up your names anymore. So, every year, for those of you who are not familiar with the process here, we ask the student body, the graduating body, to elect student speakers. And this year we have 2 student speakers. We have Anna Hoffmann from Germany and Javier Gouillet from Colombia. So I'd like you to come on stage and welcome the student speakers.
Hi, thank you very much. Dear graduates, families, partners, faculty, staff, honorable guest speaker, friends. It is a great honor indeed to address you today as student speakers. And first of all, we would like to extend our thanks to our wonderful commencement speaker for this inspiring and powerful speech. We hope we can live up to that responsibility, to that level. So looking back, Hertie has been a home for us these last few years. A place to learn new things, debate ideas, write papers, mingle with exciting people from all over the world, as we've heard, chat with friends in the cafeteria, take a nap on a red sofa, laugh and cry over late-night assignments and a thesis, and so much more. Few homes are perfect, and surely the time has not always been easy. But we think we can say, and this is before the rosy haze of nostalgia settles over it all, it was a good time. And now it is time to leave. And we've been thinking hard about what we would like to say in this short time to you as you embark on that next leg of the journey. And we decided that there are 3 things, there's always 3 things, we should think about briefly today. The privilege to choose, the power of failure, and the need to listen to yourself and to others. So that's a big agenda here. And first of all, choices. So what is your plan now, class of 2015, right? What are you doing after? Yeah. We've practiced this, right? You realize. No, so that's a question you get very often, and it's not small talk. It is quite big talk, but still, you will hear that many times more. And you know, if you don't have that yearning for that grand strategy, that high implementation plan for your life, you probably haven't been paying attention these last 2 years. So I completely understand that. And yet, it is challenging, of course, which career to pursue, which country to live in, which person to date or marry or whatever, you know, and then most of all, how to bring all of this together into one place. That is challenging, and that will keep challenging us, definitely. But the point is, we often forget how wonderful it is to have these choices, to stand on the brink of so much possibility. You know, almost everything is possible right now. We are incredibly privileged to have these choices. Just enjoy that feeling for a moment and then worry about it, but just enjoy it. And it is, of course, fine to not have the master plan. You know, life is anyways that what happens mostly while you're busy making other plans. So, graduates, the plan for today is to be happy, unashamedly happy.
Yes. Yes, yes, and very, very happy indeed, dear fellow graduates, for today. We have come together in this beautiful hall to rejoice and celebrate an achievement, much like mountain climbers celebrate a summit by sharing white smiles and hugs and speeches and toasts. So this is, first and foremost, a moment of joy. And in the increasingly fast-paced lives that characterize our times, it is certainly worth to just sit back for a second, take a deep breath, look around you, and relish in the fact that, yes, we have arrived. We are masters of public policy. This is our summit, people. Congratulations to you all. And as we stand on this vantage point in the trail of our lives, it seems worthwhile too to reflect for a minute on how and why it is that we got here. To look back on the path we've traveled and try to figure out what it may imply for the paths ahead. In a way, it is obviously true that this achievement, like all others, would not have been possible without our own efforts. Yes, we were admitted to the school, we sat through those econ exams with sweating hands, we typed down memos and papers and met during weekends to prepare group presentations. We put massive loads of energy into our thesis, and we managed, with more or less effectiveness, to limit our tendency to procrastinate. So yes, we walked steps towards this summit, and we shaped our own learning experience, even by organizing and participating in activities and projects beyond the curricular requirements. These are all part of what we are celebrating today. But at the same time, it is also true that walking the MPP path was possible because of the efforts of countless others, some of which are sitting among us here today, who have supported us and nourished us materially and emotionally in a myriad different ways. So of course, we are not alone in this achievement, and we wish to extend gratitude to all those we can think about that have somehow contributed to make this moment possible. However, in an even deeper sense, we can easily realize that much, and perhaps even most, of what allowed us to get here is the result of being truly fortunate individuals, part of a radically small, indeed really, really tiny minority of people on this planet who enjoy access to precious opportunities and who have the fortune of being able to grasp them. Beyond this obvious,
but often overlooked point, we are also part of a very small set of people who are so privileged that they can choose their own dreams out of an enormous palette of options, and we can use a great variety of resources to try to make them come true. In fact, we are so positioned that our particular palette of dreams can include the chance of giving something back. We have the very real possibility to act decisively in our shared and public world in ways that can have lasting impacts not just on our own lives and of those closest to us, but on many, many others. Part of what we can do includes working to extend opportunities we have enjoyed to more people, and this, we believe, is beautiful. After many conversations with you, we have grown convinced that this general idea of having an impact, of somehow positively contributing to social change, is part of what led us to choose public policy as a field for learning and for doing. But what should we dare dream about? Martín Caparrós, an Argentinian journalist who recently wrote a heart-wrenching book on the global tragedy of hunger, recounts an anecdote worth noting here. When he asked a destitute mother in Niger what she would wish for, whatever that would be, she replied, "A cow. Because with her milk, I would feed my children and maybe have something left over to sell." When Caparrós insisted that it was really anything that she could ask for, she replied, "Well then, let it be 2 cows." For Caparrós, this episode shows how hunger can dramatically limit the wish horizon of a person. We think this story can also help us reflect on how far our own dreams can go, and how the very dreams that we formulate for ourselves depend so much on the privileges that we enjoy. Because we are so fortunate, we think we need to be courageous in our dreaming, and that part of what we can do is to dare strive for dreams that would seem idealistic in others' eyes. And what we should expect is not success, necessarily, but rather a meaningful journey, an attempt that should make sense. For indeed, we can always fail, and we can always be wrong.
So yes, failure and being wrong. We are terrified of that, and we think probably so are most of you overachievers. But fear paralyzes us, and under its influence, we will never pursue our dreams, and we will never take risks or learn new things. And in preparing for this speech, I looked a bit for inspiration, and I thought I'd take someone not from the policy field. So J.K. Rowling, in her commencement address to Harvard graduates, talks about a moment in her life where she thought she had utterly failed. She couldn't find a job after majoring in classics, and her marriage had just crumbled. And from that very low point, she decided she'd do that thing she really wanted to do, write about a wizard kid. Turned out to be a smart choice. So bottom line, you sometimes need low points to really pursue your passions. And if you then write the bestseller of our times, everything will be just fine. But seriously, there is so much potential in this room. And if you don't try to live your dreams, who will? 2 very simple sayings that can be very inspiring indeed, at least to me, are just the simple facts that you miss all of the shots that you don't take, and that you will never know if you don't ask. So dare to take risks, dare to ask. And we have complete confidence in you. We look at you and we are certain that each and every one of you can achieve amazing things, because you have amazed us these last 2 years. The energy, inventiveness, kindness, and intelligence of you guys is incredible. And see, if this whole policy thing doesn't work out, we also see amazing plan Bs. You know, you're not only wonderful, promising policy graduates, but we also see budding chefs, fiction writers, singers, maple syrup producers, climbers, editors, dancers, therapists, hotel owners, and so much more. So we genuinely think that all of you can do really, really well.
But many of the challenges that we may decide to tackle in our future lives are such that they will not be solved on our own. They need collective, coordinated action, and this is especially hard when there is ample disagreement on what exactly it is that needs to be done. Therefore, we also believe that we should strive to listen, and to listen attentively to others, not just to understand what they believe or what they want, but especially to comprehend who they are and how their thinking has been shaped. We want to emphasize that this is not about being charitable, but rather the only way to arrive at sustainable solutions to shared problems, both in our professional and in our personal lives. Unfortunately, listening isn't seen as that much of a key skill in politics nowadays. And we are all much more trained in presentation and in persuasion than in empathy. We urge you to reflect on that and also to continue training your listening skills. But while we listen to others, we mustn't forget to listen to ourselves. It requires the same attentiveness, the same openness, the same willingness to understand and to forgive. We believe this is crucial, as the ancients used to say, know thyself.
And that also means continue asking the big questions, such as how can we forge meaning and purpose in our lives? And yes, forge, because the verb we often use is find meaning. But we are convinced that meaning isn't just sitting out there somewhere waiting for you to pick up or chance upon. We believe that it is for us to create ourselves. And of course, we all need to follow our own paths, find our own answers, forge this meaning. But we wanted to leave you with the simple wish to keep looking for answers and not settle for a cushioned and boring life. G. Monbiot, in a recent article, talks about that option of settling for this kind of life, and this is a quote now. At first, they said they would do it for a year or two, until I pay off my debts, or your student loan. Soon afterwards, they added, and my mortgage. Then it became, I just want to make enough to not worry anymore. A few years later, I'm doing it for my family. And now in middle age, they reply, what, that? That was just a student fantasy. Graduates, let's defend our dreams and not turn them into dusty fantasies. And for this quest, we need the support of friends and families and institutions around us, just as we needed that support in getting here. Yes, also Teresa over there. And here, we would like, a round of applause. And here, of course, we would like to thank the Hertie School of Governance with all its lovely faculty and management, also student affairs, for making this marvelous journey possible for us. We would also echo the Dean's thanks to the HSA and our wonderful student reps in our generation for representing us and supporting us whenever we needed them. And special thanks go to the student reps Florine, Alex, Nate, and Julia, and the HSA board Nicholas, Ferdinand, Rafa, and Yolanda. So there's a lot of clapping going on, but still we would like to invite you for one big round of applause, acknowledging all of the above and your and our families, partners and friends who made this moment possible. Maybe try to look at them if they're in this room briefly and share this moment together. Thank you.
So, we think all that remains to be said is that the most valuable part of our experience at the Hertie School is sitting in this room. It's the friendships we have built and the potential for collaboration that we can realize in the years to come. So, we need to stay in touch, and we need to think out of the box for ways to make this happen. A Facebook group won't be enough. Let's do projects together. Let's visit each other. Let's keep each other in mind when opportunities arise and share and realize ideas to strengthen our network. So finally, 3 wishes. We wish you the wisdom to flourish through the privilege of choices.
And we wish you the courage to dream big and risk failure.
And we wish you the most open of minds to truly listen to yourself and to others.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dear Cobus de Swardt, dear colleagues, dear family and friends, and most particularly, dear class of 2015. I'd like you to take a minute to look back on these last 2 years. Now, the first thing you might think of is the cabaret last night, and all I can do there is offer my full congratulations to those of you who organized and participated. It was truly terrific. But let's go back in time. How many of you can remember your first large gathering at the Hertie School, which was probably at the inauguration of 2013, when Lisa Anderson, president of the American University in Cairo, kicked off her school year? News from Cairo was not good, with the sense that the spring revolutions were going horribly wrong. But she also had individual stories of what students were doing to try to improve the situation. If you go back to last year, we had a major symposium on the European Union, and it happened the day after European elections. Much like what had happened the year before, there was a bit of a sense of almost dread. Eurosceptic parties, nationalist parties were giving victory speeches. But much like what you heard 2 years ago, you had the sense of people who wanted to push ahead, people that had ideas about what to do. 2 weeks ago, I was in Moscow with our dean and with a group of students at a time to talk about NGOs. Now, while we were there, President Putin signed a new law to restrict NGOs, to make it much more difficult for them to operate. But once again, I heard from our colleagues on the ground a real drive to do their work. Now, looking back, I see big governance challenges, and I see a perseverance, a drive to push forward. Now, looking around, I doubt that many of you had that macro picture in mind when I said look back 2 years. I'm guessing that you thought about a class, a party, maybe a new best friend. Maybe you thought about why Berlin is now your favorite city. So let me say at the micro level, rather than look back, and indeed following on what Anna and Javier discussed, let's look forward and think about your experiences with Hertie. As the previous graduating class reminded us, once a Hertian, always a Hertian. Well, what does this mean for you? Well, like the previous speakers mentioned, I have 3 things. Will you participate in our alumni network? We have alumni representatives in more than 35 countries. We have a lot of countries that have no alumni representatives. Will you become an alumni rep? If we don't have one, will you participate and bring Hertie to different parts of the world, not just to Berlin? Will you help directly? I had 3 different alumni named Alexandra, Lucas, and Ramadan who provided direct support for a project course I taught this past semester that happen actually to be on fiscal transparency? Is there a future Alexander Ramadan here who will help out a future professor and a future group of students? Will you donate financially to your school? Now, Hertie education is not cheap. I think you already know that. It's a bit early to be asking you for donations to support the school, but sometime in the future, indeed, a student may very much appreciate your help. Now, these are specific things I mentioned about the school. I really liked Javier's pitch to work together and to think about other ways of staying together as you move on. And it's not just your class, but I think these things extend across classes and to other sorts of people who belong to the Hertie community. So I hope when you leave today, you leave that you have the sense that you are a Hertian. But today was not an end. Indeed, it was simply a milestone in your relationship with your school. And please help us continue to build this great school. Well, it is now time to confer the degrees to the class of 2015. I am going to read your names, and please come forward. Caio Alves Wernick. Ana Lucia Amazo Blanco. Francisco Javier Bechle Rojas. Tim Banning. Juan Sebastián Barreto. Nathan Bassett. Helena Bechler. Paul Bernberg-Gosler. Stefan Marcelo Bösel. Bedien. Niels Matteo Vincenzo Böhm. Oliver Bott. Isabel Ruth Bucknall. Maxime Chen. Whitney Clark. Andrea Costa. Nicholas James Crawford. Sarah May Cruz. Juan Cuellar Torres. Sergio Alberto Cuevo Escobar. Samuel Patrick Dundon. Aliza Durana. William Walter Ellis II. Mariam Farid. Lucas Paul Feisenfeld. Tim Gilmeyer. Michelle Gonzalez Amador. Francesco Godardo. Cecilia Gräfin van Westerholt. Maximilian Grimm. Javier Eloy Gio Landecker. Julia Gutierrez Perez. Rajat Roy Handa. Julia Maria Hein. Theresa Heithaus. Frederica Hemker. Regula Hess. Sönke Hillebrand. Rebecca Claire Hirschfeld. Thilo Hitz. Anna Hoffmann. Steven Jakschat. Na Zhang. Konrad Kass. Sonja Kahn. Katharina Kick. Svanja Kleemann. Lena Klokemann. Harmke Kreithauf. Florian Margaret Kruse. Marianna Levesque. Hanlin Lee. Rafael Lira Carrillo. Oliver Löffler. Bruno Vinicius Lucci Pachal. Andrés Alejandro Martinez. William Medina. Clara Marcel Meneses. Charlene Mateza Mlanga. Gulia Menuki. Meilen Karin Müllenkamp. Siri Nans. Tobias Niehaus. Alex Odlum. Natalia Andrea Osorio Restrepo. Janice Otto. Armin Peter. Daniel Polter. Andrea Carolina Puentes Gaño. Thierry Racot. Sandeep Rajgopal. Aira Ramaj. Marjan Ranagojek. Kim Reichel. Martin Rück. Nikolaus Rosenberg. Adrian Rosi-Jumayeva. Christina Sampa Meheha. David Schrutz. Cornelius Johannes Franziskus Schneider. Marek Slobodnik. Benjamin Aaron Snow. Sorry, baby. Natalie Julia Spath. Leah Luisa Straßburger. Hadley Taylor. Florian Tiller. Daniel Tovar Retana. Lisa Marie Ulrich. Gustavo Vargas Victoria. Moritz Vöckeling. Kara Vorrat Rüdiger. Henry van Klenker. Christa Wegermann. Melissa Margareta Wasmuth. Almut Caroline Wegenast. Judith Beate Weiß. David Friedmann Wember. John Wheelock. Claudio Zeiss. Daniel Perez Casus. Nicholas Ansinger. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2015.